Hey, I'm Sarah, and this is the Goddess in Training podcast. This isn't about being perfect or polished or having it all figured out. This is about what happens when you actually start listening to your body, your intuition, your patterns, your truth. I'm asking big questions and having real conversations, sometimes messy and sometimes magical, with people who've lived through it, grown through it, and still don't have all the answers. If you've ever doubted yourself, betrayed your gut, or wondered if you're the only one, you're not. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to another episode of Goddess in Training. I'm your host, Sarah, and today is a special one because I'm sitting down with one of my very favorite humans on earth, my sister Kim. Kim is a Spanish teacher and a Iyengar yoga instructor and truly an all-around goddess. But what makes this conversation feel extra potent is how strangely aligned our lives have been. We got married about a year apart, had our first kids around the same time, our second kids around the same time, and then we walked through divorce in the same era too. It's like our timelines have been in conversation with each other for decades. And in this episode, we explore what it means to be sisters who have lived those parallel anchor moments and who are now on the other side of so much, stepping into an era of self-worth, intuition, and abundance. We talk about the way childhood experiences imprint patterns, how intuition gets louder the more you listen, and how the body can become a doorway. Kim even shares a wild moment where she shifted pain in her hip by working with energy. We also get real about parenting teenagers and the humbling, hilarious truth that our kids come in as fully formed people, healing family lines, releasing the belief that our worth comes from over-accommodating others, and what it looks like to stop scrambling for safety and start trusting that things can congeal in the most perfect way without forcing. It's tender, it's funny, it's deep, and it's very sisters on a long car ride who accidentally open a portal. All right. Take a deep breath, settle in, and join us on this journey. Here's my conversation with Kim. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Goddess in Training. I'm your host, Sarah, and today I am here with one of my very favorite people, my sister, Kim. Kim obviously has known me longer than most people on this earth. As anyone. Well,
Except for your parents,
our dads, right? And so I'm so excited to have this conversation, not only because Kim is one of my favorite people, but Kim is a Spanish teacher and an Iyengar yoga instructor and just an all-around goddess. And I think that maybe other sisters have this happen, but so many of our anchor moments have lined up throughout our lives.
Yeah.
The positive and the negative, and are the
Oddly so.
Yeah.
Oddly so with us.
Yeah. We're talking marriage, kids, divorce, other little details, but we are now both in this era where we are embracing abundance and experiencing life in a way that I think that we are both really worthy of. So yeah. I think that's where our conversation will go. But who knows? Oh my gosh, with sisters?
Yeah.
My daughter said, whenever you talk to Kim, it's like this journey. And she said she hasn't listened to my podcast, but she's like, I think I'll listen to that episode. So anyway, we'll see what kind of ride we're in for today.
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
Thank you for being here, Kim.
Oh, thank you for
being
me.
my sister.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you for being my sister. Yes. And feel very lucky. And it is so weird how it's funny. I was just saying that to Weston, current, I guess we haven't even talked about labels yet, but my really favorite guy who I'm seeing. Yeah. But I was just telling him recently how, describing to him how things have lined up, how we were, and he was like, wait, what? Like you guys basically got married a year apart. You were pregnant with your first children at the same time and with our second children at the same time. And we got divorced around the same time. Yeah. It's actually really unusual how our paths have lined up. You got married first, you had your first child first, I was right behind, I got divorced first. You weren't only because my divorce was the longest divorce, I think, in the history of divorces. Yeah, pretty brutal.
Yeah. Did you guys split up before we did? I don't think so.
No, I thought we did. No, we did
Oh, okay.
because I remember I was with
Yeah.
Diego and Carla when you guys were starting to talk about divorce.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof, but wow, that feels like a lifetime ago, thankfully.
It does. It does feel like a lifetime
Uh,
ago. Very grateful to that.
yeah.
Um, but relationships are mirrors, and I think it makes sense that we've had these parallels because I feel like we are mirrors of each other more than anybody else in
Mhm.
this world. And I learned so much from you, and we have this shared past, this
Mhm.
childhood that
Mhm.
was challenging. And it's so interesting that in our past relationships, we've been learning similar lessons at the same time
Mhm.
about, I would say, repeating patterns that were imposed upon us as kids in a way.
Right,
Yeah.
right, imprinted on us,
Hmm.
absolutely. And it's actually, I guess it's odd that more siblings don't have such similar paths. But yeah, no, have learned so much from our past relationships. But I think maybe the greatest thing that we shared in common and have overcome or have made significant gains in overcoming is like one, valuing ourselves, and two, listening to our intuition. Right. It was so interesting. Yesterday we were talking with our mom, and she was talking about how she had before she married our father, she kind of revealed that she had a sense that it wasn't going to last and did it anyway. And that was surprising to me. I
It
don't
was
know.
super
Yeah.
surprising to me
Mm.
because, especially back then, too, people didn't really think about divorce, but she also came from a divorced family. So
Right.
I think divorce was not a taboo thing that it was in a lot of families. But still,
I mean, yeah,
yeah,
that's so it was so odd to me that she's like, "Well, I can make it 20 years." She said, she's like, "I don't know if this is gonna work." But she had this such a strong drive to have children,
right.
right? So I think
Hmm.
they were young, 17 and 19. Anyway, so but same thing, like not saying, not having the faith that the right thing would come along, that if you say no to this opportunity, something better will come along. Operating from fear that, "Oh, well, this is as good as it gets, you know?" And I definitely have operated that way in the past and always had a voice inside me that would give me really good guidance. And I didn't listen for the longest time. And it's been such a nice shift to be able to start listening to it. And the more you listen to it, the louder it gets. Yeah. And once you start listening and actually following, I notice that it reinforces the practice because the guidance is good. Things work out. It's like really work out for the best when you listen to that inner voice. So that's been such a nice thing to learn and practice and continue to practice.
And
Mm.
to learn that our mother has an inner voice as well. And
Yeah.
we all are on these paths. And I always like to say time is an illusion, but I feel
Mm.
like
Mhm.
there's this convergence of understanding not only within our family, but it's coinciding with this overall awakening, I think, that is happening right now. Do you find, especially in your yoga practice, that
Mhm.
more and more people are thinking about intuition and the metaphysical and what else is beyond this world?
I think so. Right. So the wonderful thing about Iyengar yoga is that it's very, very practical, and I appreciate that a lot. And we, as teachers, or at least in my training, I was encouraged to not spend too much time in the esoteric. When you have this physical body right here that is a pathway to experiencing the divine, don't just skip over it, right?
Mm,
And there are infinite opportunities to explore right here with your little toe, right? Bringing more awareness into the physical body. And so I think partly because of that, partly because of a fear of people not feeling comfortable in my classes if I get too out
mm,
there. I've really avoided that for many, many years. I mean, I've taught for over 20 years now. And it's only been recently that I've decided to just say, like, screw it. This is so interesting to me. And little by little, kind of bringing in things that might be seen as more out there, but that I have incorporate it into my own practice and find really valuable. So I'm really starting to share more of that, and people are incredibly receptive. So,
It's
yeah.
amazing.
Well, so when I was meditating this morning, and so this is a bit of a non sequitur, but thinking about doing this podcast with you, I felt like I had absolutely no idea what to talk about. And I knew that you would guide us, and you're really good at generating really interesting conversations. But when I was meditating, what came to me was to talk about this experience that I had recently where my right hip had been hurting a lot. And I didn't really understand why. Like, usually I have a sense of like what's going on and why these things are happening in my body and what to do about it. And this was really irritating me. It was hurting to walk, and it had been bothering me for a few weeks. Well, and the other thing is, often when I sit down to meditate, I sense a very clear imbalance between my left and right sides.
Interesting.
Usually, and that's true on the physical level too. My right leg is shorter than my left. In high school, playing sports, I would have pain either in my right ankle, knee, or hip. It would just move around, right? So that was, and then much later, I realized I think it's, the skeletal imbalance. But so when I sit down, so I think in all of my movements throughout the day, I'm sort of reinforcing this imbalance unless I'm consciously like working with it to balance. But so I sit down to meditate, and I sense like just my sides feel very, very different. I guess energetically is the only way I can describe it. Often my right side feels very disjointed and crooked and out of place. And there are like pockets of intense, like concentrated energy, and then like pockets of diffuse energy. And then usually my left side just feels sort of diffuse, and I don't notice it as much. So often what I'll do when I first sit down is just do this practice that helps me balance it. And so I was doing that. And then I went and I walked my dog. And as I'm walking, my hip was still hurting. And I was like, wait a minute. If it's all energy, which it is, why can't I just release this pain from my hip? And and then by the end of the day, it didn't hurt anymore, and it hasn't hurt since.
Oh my gosh.
Which is really cool.
Wow.
I feel weird about sharing it because it's like not helpful to anybody else. You know what I mean? Because like if it's the kind of thing where if I were like, if you had pain and I was like, well, Sarah, it's just energy, just let it, that's such a jerk thing to say.
Right.
Because it's like, well, how? And like, I don't have the answer to how. You know what I mean? Other than that was my experience of, I have developed a practice over the years of sort of working with my energy, and I do this specific thing that does help me balance it. But then it was just this instant flash of realization that I could just let it go the way I can release anything else. So yeah, so
And the only similar experience I've had is my old partner and now best friend, Emmanuel, who was on the podcast early on, said to me something that was extremely frustrating in the same way that if you were to give that advice, it's like, okay, well, getting over depression, anxiety, you can just go to the top of that mountain if you want to. Or you can circle around and go up the mountain that way. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, how do you just go up the mountain? That's not necessarily a helpful thing. However, it did become very helpful when I then all of a sudden was just at the top of the mountain. And it's like, okay, it is possible, but there's no real way to instruct somebody how to get there.
right.
But I guess knowing that it's possible is the thing that matters.
Yeah, I think so. Right. So that when you have that experience of like, the pain is gone and it doesn't have to come back, or "Oh, I'm at the top of the mountain, I have let go of all of that." You can really believe that it's done because there's this precedent for it. So maybe it helps eliminate some self-doubt. Yeah, and it's nice to have that inspiration. I love hearing about other people's success stories.
Exactly.
It's really inspiring. But everyone's path is different, you know?
Well, I think that's the thing with being a healer and helping other people along their paths. It's just that. And that's why I love the word doula. And I think that as a yoga instructor too, as you're being a witness to the people that you're working with, and I feel like students too. I mean, there's probably a parallel there that you're not you're not taking information and putting it into their brains.
Right.
You are
I tried
opening,
that. It didn't work.
you're opening up this pathway, because really all healing is self-healing. All
Yeah.
learning is self-learning.
Self-guided,
Yeah. That, and as parents too. I was just having this conversation with my son about nature versus nurture, and he's in this place on his journey where he believes that nurture is everything. And having children who are now teenagers, I feel my influence is actually pretty small. That I can give nudges and I can model behavior, but I cannot force them. I did not really create them in the sense that nurture, you would think that you can shape this ball of Play-Doh and create this person. That they were born and delivered here and in this realm with their path already set out.
Yeah, having until my first child was born, until Izzy was born, I really believed it was more nurture too.
Yeah.
And then she came into the world and I was like, oh, she is her own person, like she came in with interests and personality that like did not come from her father or from me. Shoes in particular. She was, remember,
that's right, when
she was obsessed with shoes when she was like a year old.
That's
We'd be
right.
pushing her in the stroller and she'd be like, stop. She couldn't say stop, but she'd be like, what? We'd be walking by a store. It was like the high heel shoes in the window and she'd be like craning her neck to see. And we're like, Izzy, do you want to look at those shoes? And she's like, yeah, literally a year old. We're like, where the heck did this child come from?
It's so funny because she's not super into fashion now as an adult.
No.
It was just as a little toddler.
Yeah.
She really enjoyed those things.
Yeah, like the time when she saw my outfit and started crying. So upset by my outfit that she looked at me and burst into tears and was like pointing and sobbing. And I was like, wow, okay. It was pretty funny.
And Elka, my daughter, definitely is still more into fashion, but I definitely had that experience too, where she was a toddler and I put makeup on to go to work and she looks at me and she says, you're the real mama now.
Jeez. Wow. The real mama.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Wow. Jeez. My non-makeup self is just some inferior imposter in your mind.
They teach us so much. They do. Give us skincare routines.
Yeah. Lots of advice.
Yeah. Last night there was a lot of advice. It was the winter solstice and we went around and
brutal.
Yeah. Kim, I think, got ganged up on a little bit.
I did.
I don't know, some kind of portal was opened where her daughters felt very empowered to give a whole lot of information that hadn't been imparted upon you previously.
Yeah. They're like, there's a whole lot that we could say to you that we haven't been saying. And I was like, what?
How did that feel, though?
Well, it made me nervous because I'm like, well, why are you holding back? Why haven't you felt comfortable saying these things to me? Right? Two, what the heck is it? Like, what am I doing so wrong that that you feel so strongly that you wish I knew? Yeah,
But
so we'll talk in the car.
I would say, though, that your response was a little bit, maybe a lot so, coming from this place of the things that we were talking about releasing self-doubt and embracing abundance and self-worth and the feeling that you are enough. I say that because my experience of the conversation was such that they never said that you need to change or it wasn't anything critical, but you interpreted it as, well, what could I be doing differently? But it wasn't that they were saying that you could do anything differently.
I mean, they sort of were. Rose was like, yeah, there's a lot, Mom. I just don't say it because, it's not my place. And I'm like, well, say what though? Like,
I mean, I think it devolved a little bit into they were trying to grasp at concrete things because then Izzy was talking about, well, just sit and work for an hour and don't worry about the list. So, so it did move into
more like my habits, just my own personal habits regarding how I get things done.
But how it started, though, Rose just
was what I heard her saying is that it wasn't concrete things necessarily. It was more,
Core personality flaws? Is that what it
oh, I don't think that's what she was saying at all. Yeah. See, I
No,
think I
I
think
know,
you're
I know, I
interpreting
know.
it in this
Yeah.
way. I think it was more like, "Mom, you seem a little lost sometimes."
Distracted? Absolutely. But the thing is, that is an ongoing conversation in the household.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, like, yeah, I know. And we
Uh-huh.
talk about this. So what is it that you have been holding back? Like, what is it that you haven't been telling me? Because she's pretty vocal at home. I didn't think she was holding anything back. That's what made me nervous. I thought there might be this whole other host of criticisms that I know nothing about. That would be a complete surprise. But yeah, I get distracted pretty easily. But like already talk about those things. So I don't know. I mean, it's nice. Like, we have a long drive ahead of us today, so I'm sure we'll have a chance to talk about it in the car. Because the thing is, I really do value their opinions.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
have a lot of wisdom and a lot of clarity. So I'm really looking forward to hearing it. I mean, I did feel a little like on the spot yesterday or a little exposed, I guess, but it's good. We'll talk about it. I think we have pretty open communication lines.
Yeah, I think that that is one thing that we both share with our kids is being able to really talk about anything. Normally, I'm the one who's put on the spot by my kids, so I
Mm.
think I was enjoying the moment a little bit because the spotlight was not on me. My kids were there and they were just a little bit tired, I think. Normally, they're the ones who are very critical of
Yeah.
me.
Elka
And
had a moment. Uh,
yeah.
Honestly, I'm so grateful because you hear so many parents talking about what a nightmare their teenagers are. And I
Mm.
don't feel that way at all. But it is a period of their lives where they are really coming into themselves and differentiating from their parents, right? So, of course, it's natural for them to want to do things differently than their parents and have a lot of opinions about how we do things so it's good that we can just have it all out there and be able to accept that from them rather than resist it and insist on constantly being the authority.
Mm.
Because the thing is, like, these are human beings, like you were saying, who come into the world with their own body of wisdom,
Mhm.
honestly, we won't get into maybe where or why or how that is, but with their own selves. And there is so much that we can learn from them. And they deserve respect. The thing that I think sabotages most parent-child relationships is that parents think that they always have to be the authority, they always have to be right. And I think it's more helpful to be able to admit when we make mistakes and really value what our children are bringing to the table and value even their feelings, their opinions. It's still our job as parents to have clear boundaries and just say, like, I know you really want that thing or really want to do this thing. And the answer is no. That's it. We can talk about it, but the answer is no, maybe for reasons you don't understand because you're 2 or 12 or whatever the situation is, but to like give them the space to like have their feelings and their opinions. And I do like to try to explain because I was a kid. I hated the because I said so thing.
Oh,
Oh my
yeah.
God. Or, well, because it's inappropriate. I always felt like that was such a
Oh.
cop out answer from parents.
Uh,
But why? If there's a good reason to say no, you should be able to articulate it to me. That was really difficult that way as a kid. But because of that, I try to offer the same respect to my kids. And if they can't understand it or I can't communicate it well enough, then that's fine. It doesn't change the answer. But anyway, just to like really honor them as individual human beings
Mhm.
and to know that, yeah, I've like made mistakes. To be
They've
able
seen us make a lot of
They
mistakes.
have. They have. But it's okay because that gives them permission to make mistakes too and
Mhm.
to just keep moving and keep making the next best choice possible. I love it. And I can't be reminded of it enough. But in the studio, I have this sutra that the essence of it is all we can ever do is make the next best choice that we know how to make in any given moment. And sure, in retrospect, years later, we might wish we might have made a different choice, but like all we can do is make the best choice we know how with the information we have and to let go of any expectation for the outcome,
Mm.
right? And that's where so much suffering comes from is expecting a very specific outcome, but what you get might not be what you wanted, but you never know what that's going to turn into. It could be something that leads you to something way better than you ever could have imagined. But in the end, all we can do is be as present and clear as possible, right? Which comes from taking the best care of ourselves that we can and having whatever practices, meditation or whatever practices work for us to help us be clear and centered. And from that place, make good choices. The best choice we know how to make at any given moment.
Yeah. One thing that I think about a lot is not only kind of at base level for our children, creating a better life than what we experienced. Obviously, we just want to make the world a better place, and especially for our own children,
Mm-hmm.
but also healing ancestral lines. And I have felt in my past that no, God, like, fuck. We come from a divorced family that was really painful and had a lot of challenges. And when I was going through my divorce, I'm like, God, like, here I am
Yeah.
doing to my
Same
kids
stupid
the
shit.
same that
Yeah.
happened to me.
Yeah.
And when I went into marriage, that was actually the thing that I was trying to prevent most.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there we are repeating that experience. But I would say though that it wasn't that the experience was completely different for our children, but having the presence and being people who are open and honest and communicative with our kids in a way created a better experience for them in some respects because we did not have that kind of support from our parents. I never knew what was going on. There was just this kind of confusion and loneliness because we didn't sit and talk the way that that we do with our kids. But also by going through a very similar kind of anchor experience, I think healing ancestrally too, healing the family line, our mom watching us go through these things in a different way than she did. When we were with her yesterday, she was in a very self-reflective place that I never thought that she would get to.
Yeah, that's true, right? Because time doesn't even move in one direction. It's not even linear, right? So I think as we make different choices and heal ourselves, it spreads in every direction. So it does give her an opportunity to reflect and process some of her own wounds, which is really nice to think that has even more impact than we would think, more than just on future generations. And with teaching too, you had said something about, well, like teaching in the classroom, teaching Spanish. The big difference, I think, is with what we're trying to offer our kids that we didn't get is just like really being present and seeing them. And then that's what I try to do on my better days teaching is to remember the value of just being really, really present with the students, my yoga students too, right? Being present and authentic, seeing them, and teaching yoga because that's something I'm way more comfortable with because I've only taught Spanish for 2 years, or I guess 3. But to just respond to what's happening with my students in the moment in a very fluid way that sort of honors where they're at in the moment and what everybody in the room needs, sensing what they need and kind of shifting directions accordingly. And with students in the classroom, right? And with our children, right? With everyone around us, just being able to be present. It's funny, like being with family, it's the hardest for me.
Be present.
To be present.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Why do you think that is?
I mean, I guess like my impulse answer would be to say that maybe there are just wounds that are still raw for me. I have a really hard time with acceptance. The way mom isolates herself is just like really hard for me to see. The way that she neglects herself physically and emotionally, and her life just seems like really horrible and painful to me. And it makes me sad to see that. And it's funny because I had these Louise Hay cards one time, and gosh, Izzy was probably only 5 or 6 or maybe 7, whatever. She wanted to pick one out for Nana, and the one she picked out was I get to live my life in my own way. And when she gave it to mom, mom was like, "Thank you. Finally, someone understands."
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, all right, I need to like let go
Yeah.
of my attachment to how her
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was like 10 years ago, and I guess I'm still working on it, but
Okay, well, so let's
that she gets to live her own life, and like that's a me problem.
that's what I was gonna say.
Right. That's not a her.
Yeah, right. And that her definition of happiness is not yours.
Right.
And that's where everybody is a mirror, especially our family. And I think that's why it's difficult to be around family and to be present, because we are seeing ourselves so distinctly in all of the people around us, and we can't hide from it. And so, do you think that there's an element of fear when you think about mom and her path?
I don't think so. I mean, I experience it more as like sadness. I don't
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, but yeah, sadness, and not just sadness for her, but sadness for myself, because it would have been nice to have parents who knew how to be more emotionally present. That's, I think, was one of the hardest things for me growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and when we're at her house and the TV is on, which is just overstimulating for me, like it's really agitating to have like lots of different noise inputs going on at the same time. Like I really hate that a lot. It pulls me away from the conversation, but I feel like she's not as present either. So getting together in this sort of neutral space was really, really nice. And I feel like we got to have a really nice conversation, which is what I would have hoped for. It was really nice. Yeah.
Because I definitely would say that in my past, I think I've released it for the most part, have had fear around um, being alone, being isolated, not producing, and being resistant to sitting and being, because I didn't want to get stuck in that in the way that I perceived her to possibly be stuck in
Yeah,
that.
that makes sense.
Yeah. But I think I've released that for the most part, because it's really important for us to just sit and be and not constantly do and not constantly produce. It's been a hard lesson for me, is to realize that I am not what I produce.
Yeah, actually, there is definitely an element of that for me too. That drive to live a different kind of life. I guess I don't like think about that. I mean, to me, that all comes from this question of worthiness and how do I evaluate my own worthiness, and and knowing on a logical level that it is not about what we produce. We just are inherently worthy, right? And yeah, that probably did come from our experiences growing up. Like that belief that we have to do something, be something more to be worthy, or just the belief that we are just not worthy, right? Because like that's what was modeled
Yeah.
for us in a pretty profound way. Yeah, I was just talking recently too about how I feel like the big messages for me growing up is that our worth comes from being accommodating.
Yeah.
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 And not ever making a stink about anything, just like being really accommodating to the point of letting people walk over you, letting people take advantage of you, because if you don't want to upset, you don't want to rock the boat. And also that happiness comes from being attractive. Like that was a message I got from mom a lot too. Like I always very strongly perceived, I feel like what the message that she was always giving us was that she was unhappy. Her life wasn't good because she wasn't pretty enough and because she struggled with her weight and all those things. And I remember her talking about Christine, Marceline's daughter, and just being like, wow, she was in just jeans and a t-shirt, and she was actually a model, right? She can just wear regular old jeans and a t-shirt and just look so gorgeous, and being so impressed with that. And I remember I was in high school at the time, and I was like, well, like I think I look okay in jeans and a t-shirt, but like not getting that kind of, but like, oh no, we in our family are down here. But these other people, wow. And I was like, wait, do I even get to aspire to that? And that was like some really dysfunctional thinking anyway, that was something important to aspire to, right? Because like looks make you happy, right? But that was a strong message, and that was really unhealthy.
It was a little bit different for me because I was the fat sister. And as I was always told, like, you can't wear that. And yeah, like, you can't wear a bikini, you can't wear a crop top. Yeah. Yeah, all the time. And I remember her taking like modeling pictures of you. And
Really? I don't
yes,
remember.
there are these pictures of you that she submitted for modeling.
As a baby because she was
No, no, no.
totally like blinded even because my forehead was like gigantic. Do you remember? There's a picture of me as a baby, like kind of like with spit up falling out of my face, and like my face is this big and my forehead is this big. Like, oh my God, you sent pictures where? Like, why would you do that?
No, there are
But
these pictures of you at the Highland Avenue house. So you're probably 12, I don't know, in that range, 12 maybe. Where, and you're like posing like a model. And do you remember there
I
was
have
this?
no
Okay.
recollection of that.
So this was like the quintessential 80s leotard outfit. I feel like it was gray and had like blue stripes down the legs.
Oh, yes, yes. Wait, was I wearing a blue and purple sweater? I wore
That's
that for like
possible.
years.
That's
The
possible.
seam broke and I stapled the seam back together so I could keep
Oh,
wearing it. But I think I wore that when we had the circus in the backyard.
that's
Do you
right.
remember?
I do remember the
That was so
circus.
fun.
That
That
was
was
fun.
pretty awesome. We had like the whole neighborhood come.
Mm-hmm.
Charged them 5 cents a piece. Yeah. Had-
And you got to be the acrobat, and I had to be the clown, I think, with a pillow stuffed in my shirt. So to go back to the messaging I received.
I'm sorry. I was not the nicest. I wasn't.
It's all right. I'm over all of
Oh.
that. But mom definitely, I think, shifted her perception of beauty as time went on. But it wasn't until my adulthood that I feel like she wasn't thinking about what I was wearing and whether it was appropriate or not appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that was all just a reflection of her inside, not me whatsoever.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Her own insecurities.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Projected onto you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually just telling David that story the other day that I remember going to some dance and I had some top that was not fully covering and mom saying, "You can't wear that." Yeah. I mean, she didn't specifically say because you're fat, but that was the yeah,
Indication.
yeah, yeah. You can't show skin. And then I would see you and I don't think that she said those things to you because you were skinny.
I don't think, but I do remember her saying, if I wasn't doing that well in sports, she's like, that's okay. I'm really bad at sports too. So you're obviously going to be bad.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'm not that. Somehow we like our good grades still. She somehow didn't manage to
Mm.
tampen those down,
I don't
even
know.
though she struggled because she had undiagnosed dyslexia.
Really?
Oh, yeah. She says that now. And I think
Oh.
it tracks.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
interesting.
But yeah.
But I don't remember grades ever being something that we talked about, especially now in the way that our kids talk about
Oh, they're
grades,
so
or at least
obsessed.
my kids.
Yeah.
Not Kai, my son, but Elka definitely cares deeply about grades. And it's so interesting because I don't place that on her. I try to talk her back, like,
Mm-hmm.
this doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
But it matters deeply to her. And I think there was a little bit of that. I felt like there was an unspoken expectation that I was to do well, but I don't know if our parents actually really cared about grades. But we just did well. I don't know. Did you hear any messaging about we didn't get paid for good grades? I don't remember bringing home a report card and having any conversation about it, really.
I feel like there was a general, maybe more from dad, maybe a general, I don't know. I always knew it was a good thing to get good grades, but right, they didn't make a big deal about it.
Yeah,
I don't remember any specific conversations about it. They would put them on the fridge, didn't they?
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the other thing that I've had to overcome is I think there was an expectation or just a belief, a core belief that I had that my worthiness came from caring for others.
For sure. Absolutely.
Right.
It was because everyone else's response to mom and having adopted special needs children was like, wow, what a martyr. How incredible. And for the longest time, I'm like, yeah, absolutely, of course, right?
Mhm.
Like, so few people are willing to do this, and it
Yep.
meets a very significant need for society. These kids, like TJ, would have had to stay in the live her life in the hospital if mom hadn't adopted her and brought her into our family. How horrible is that, right? That the idea of her living her whole life in a hospital. But this was a turning point for me in my thinking around all of that. Pete's, my ex-husband's mom, who was so critical in so many different ways. Like, she was like, why does Kim always wear men's pants? And to Pete, we had met for about 15 minutes for lunch. It was at a little cafe. I went to go buy a drink from the refrigerator and sat back down. And it was so tense when I sat back down. I'm like, what just happened? I was gone for 2 minutes. And Pete told me later that his mom had been like, well, Kim seems very nice, but I just don't see you guys together for the long term. He was like, what? You just spent 10 minutes with her.
Wow.
It's like the very first time we met. Later that week, I think, or a short time later, we were at the beach and I was telling her about my family. And her reaction to it was, wow, that must have been really hard for you. And I was like, it had never occurred to me to think about it that way. And it was very hard. I didn't feel like I was ever listened to. She would ask, sometimes, oh, how is school? And I would want to tell her and start to tell her. And within 5 seconds, she would be yelling at the other kids. There didn't seem to be a sincere interest. And I would never really get to share my life. And being listened to, that what I have to say has value, was not something that I came out of that situation with. And it was really nice to actually have Pete's mom say wow, that must have been hard. I gave myself permission to feel how hard it was for the first time.
Yeah, it took a really long time to give myself permission to feel that. And I've had a practice that I've written about where I have gone back as my adult self and gone and held the hand of that little girl who was put in situations that I never should have been put in, and healed myself in that way. Because it was hard. We do this thing as humans where we compare to other people and okay, well, we had everything that we needed in life, and
food and shelter.
but we all have these experiences so we can shift and grow. And sometimes I think that maybe I'm focusing too much on the negative. Do you ever wonder that? And I go back and I try to think about moments of joy. And I've done this specifically with our father, who's a complicated person that we don't really need to go into, but I try to, it's hard though. I go and I think about the times that he would chase us and neighborhood kids around the house.
And play.
And play.
He played with us.
Right.
It was fun.
Right. And thinking about the times sitting with the kids around the dining room table with mom and singing songs. And there was a lot of joy, but it's so hard. That's the thing.
What?
Right. And but it's
but
so,
you're right. There were good moments.
Perception is reality.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, well, why can't I put those memories in the forefront? And maybe the answer is because we need to examine the negative things, because it's in those moments of discomfort that we grow more so than the moments of joy. But I see that in my own kids, where they're then focusing on the negative aspects of a situation rather than the positive. And I so much want them to see the joy and the abundance that's around them. And so is that just human nature, or?
Right, it is human nature, because we want whatever, the amygdala and focusing, what is it called? A negativity bias. It is a human trait, because it protects us, or our brains perceive that having a negativity bias protects us. And so that's why practicing gratitude is so valuable, and it's something that we have to intentionally do. But it's so powerful to generate joy in our lives. I mean, I think we can say that our emotional needs were not met growing up, right? And we can say that, and we can say, and it's also true that there were moments of joy, and there's value at certain times to examine the ways in which our emotional needs weren't met and how to reparent ourselves, like you were describing. It also is very healing, I think, to offer something different to our own children.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, focus more of our awareness on the things that we're grateful for and the positive.
Yeah. And I think that we're both in this place where we've had a profound shift. I think 2025, I've talked a lot about this, has been a year of shedding, the year of the snake. I think we both have come to this point at the end of the year where a lot of this past shit is just kind of shed. And I came to a place where I felt super secure and happy, and I loved my life. I love my life. I love myself. And then as I got to the top of that mountain, all of this other abundance has come in. And I'm very excited for both of us in the next year because I think that that abundance is going to continue to flow.
Absolutely. Right. And as I was telling you earlier, I've been having this experience over the past few months of feeling so unbelievably supported by my friends, my community, my family. For the first time, just really being able to say honestly, I am so well supported, emotionally and in many ways. And that's brand new for me in my life to feel that way. So, and that's huge because that I feel like empowers me to do all of the things that I would love to do and am meant to do.
Well, and going back to the conversation that we had with the kids last night, I think a lot of that being pulled in a lot of different directions. And we were also talking about having ideas and not being able to jump on those ideas and seeing other people then take those ideas and run with them and having success with those ideas. I think so much of that can just fall away and you're able to be more focused because you can be more yourself with the abundant support system around you. You can be 100% Kim. And going back to Rose, because I don't think that I was fully articulating, I think that's the key that she was kind of getting at, actually.
Yeah.
That it's not about making lists and being more focused and organizing your tasks in a different way. I think it's about sitting and being authentically you and being allowed to be authentically you and to create and having the chaos kind of fall away.
And finishing things, right? Like not coming up against this wall of self-doubt or perfectionism, like fear of not doing something perfectly, so letting it drop away for a while, right? But just sitting in that clarity and forward motion with the things that I really care about. Because I think she did say something about like, no more new hobbies, mom, or something along those lines, which they're always all interconnected. Like I don't feel like I've done anything as disparate as my interests may seem. I feel like it does all connect. But actually like focusing and
I think that ties into the lack mindset that we never really ever felt like we had a safety net, an emotional safety net.
anything.
And so we had to be scrambling for the next thing and constantly thinking about safety and security. And that creates this world that feels scattered and where it's difficult to just be in a flow.
Because we're operating from a place of desperation and grasping to some degree at some times, as opposed to just sitting in uncertainty, in these moments of uncertainty, these moments of building when you have to be patient and maybe can't quite take action yet, and having the faith that it's going to be okay. That like we don't have to just go quick scramble for some solution, for some instant solution, some short-term solution, that we can sit in uncertainty until trust until things congeal in the most perfect way, in the
way that it's meant to. And the more that I sit in that feeling and in that knowing, that's when more abundance comes. Yeah.
Right, that's what I mean by things kind of coming together perfectly, right? Sometimes we just need to be patient and trust.
Because things come together.
They do.
Well, we're going to get kicked out of our Airbnb and this lovely journey that we've been on. I feel like
Indeed.
especially when family all comes together, it is a journey. It is, and
Mhm.
like any kind of vacation, any kind of intentional time that you put yourself in a different location. I think that's why travel's so important.
Yeah.
And I love thinking about life as, little discrete journeys. And then I think we're all going to have this integration time after
Yeah.
this time together
Yeah.
where we will then level up all together and
Yes.
individually.
Yay.
Thank you, Kim.
Yay. Thank you, Sarah. I love you so much. I love you too.
Thank you all.
Thank you for tuning in to Goddess in Training. I hope something in this episode stirred your knowing or softened your heart. If it spoke to you, share it with someone who needs it, or leave a review or comment to help others find us. If you're watching on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to hear more conversations like this, please consider supporting Goddess in Training on Patreon. For more tools and offerings to deepen your intuition practice, visit goddessintraining.online. You can also join the Scroll of Sashat on Substack for twice-weekly stories of how I followed my intuition. The music for Goddess in Training is Madre Ayahuasca by Arkawa, and you can find more of his music in the link to his website in the show notes. Remember, your intuition is not a mystery, it's a memory. Keep listening.
Resplandor de fuego, estrellita, tabaco santo, fuerza de rapé, soplo de luz, soplo en